The Michael Berry Show.
There is an organization called Buzzfeed. Buzzfeed is one of many sort of new media companies that have emerged that have effectively replaced much of what used to be the newspaper industry and magazines. In today's world, value for content providers is sold to advertisers on the basis of eyeballs, clicks. Can you make people, a quantitative number of people, come to your website? Well, you know as well as I do that the crazier, more outlandish, more lascivious, more frightening material gets more clicks. And we could spend a lot of time bemoaning that, but let's just stipulate it as fact. That's what's happening in America today. So the model for content creators, and that's what I am, it's what the New York Post is, what the what the New York Times and the New York Post are. It's what the Washington Post is, it's what Fox News is, it's what Rush is. We're content creators. And to the extent that different people want to consume our content, then the value of you as a listener, a viewer, a reader, that value is what is then sold to advertisers. Now, we have a slightly unique business model for our show that works within the bigger umbrella of mostly iHeartMedia, although we're on other stations as well. And it's a deeper connection than just an advertiser, and not just anyone can advertise if I endorse it. But let's just say content creators are all competing for your attention. BuzzFeed News is better at doing that than the Weekly Standard was, or some of the other newspapers and periodicals that have either gone out of business or have so scaled back as to no longer be as good at what they used to be because they were paying too much to create content that was not receiving enough clicks. Probably the best bang for the buck in terms of dollars spent in creating content and value added to advertisers of any medium, including Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, me, TV, Fox News, probably the highest return on investment is the Drudge Report. The Drudge Report started as Matt Drudge's listserv. He was living in L.A. He would send out this sort of gossip magazine, which is what it was, for Hollywood. And he wasn't worried about getting his bills paid, and he had kind of inside connections, and he could get the scoop on who was sleeping with who and who was doing what. And when he broke the Monica Lewinsky story, which he didn't originally have, it was, I think, Newsweek that had it. And when they sat on it for 3 weeks and the decision was made internally that they weren't going to use it, that meant that the Clinton aura and the Clinton connections had killed the story. And Drudge saw the gold that he had just dug up. And he ran with the story. He owned that story. He is more than just a footnote in that story. He is a player in that story. And that launched him. And Drudge stayed true to that. And so he became an aggregator. That is, he doesn't go out and gather the news and then present it the way, say, the New York Times and the Washington Post do. He grabs other people's news headlines or news stories. He puts them on one aggregated site with very clever headlines. He chooses what you get. And a lot of people, probably many of you, go there and you go, well, I only have 10 minutes. What's the one place I can go to get all the news stories? And there you go. And so on a very low budget, because he's not out doing interviews and chasing down stories. There's no gumshoe effort here. He's just reading stories and picking which ones go on his site, and he's developed a big following. Well, BuzzFeed is built sort of on that model. What kind of crazy things can get the most clicks? And normally it's crazy photos of cats playing a piano or a dog that can bark to a tune. It's some sex stories and celebrity stories. And it was never a very well-respected site, but it's an entertainment site in much the same way that the National Enquirer long has been, or People magazine. There's a big audience for that. But BuzzFeed along the way fancied themselves as something more than just a place to post videos of cats banging on the keys tunefully. They wanted to be a real player in the news. It's an ego play. Why do famous people run for office? Why do some people want to get into being a media outlet that covers politics? So BuzzFeed is very good. They have a guy named Ben Smith, who's their editor. BuzzFeed is very good at getting people to come to their site. There are others like this. Reddit would be one of those. Huffington Post, Daily Beast. But BuzzFeed was never respected. Nobody in the industry, nobody in the field, nobody in the profession, inside or outside of politics, believed that this is a site you should take seriously. BuzzFeed runs with the story that Donald Trump directed his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress. When they did that, well, let me play you. Free Beacon put together a montage.
Giant news story from BuzzFeed News today.
It is one of the most dramatic and potentially devastating developments.
A bombshell reporting. A bombshell.
This is a bombshell.
In this bombshell.
Bombshell, bombshell,
Bombshell, bombshell, bombshell, and bombshell.
Bombshell. Bombshell.
On tonight's bombshell report.
We got to get back to that bombshell.
The biggest bombshell.
BuzzFeed's latest bombshell.
Bombshell.
Damning and damaging stuff.
What may be the most damning allegation yet?
What may be the most damning report to date. A new report so damning that if true, a story that if true,
If true.
If true.
If true. If true. If true.
if true, if true,
If true, important caveat.
If true, could mean the president obstructed justice.
The president's going to lose his job.
Is a game changer. The Trump presidency would be over.
could very well put in motion Donald Trump's impeachment.
That's fueling new talk of impeachment.
Could very well be impeachment.
Could lead to his impeachment. Historically, it's a beeline to impeachment.
How close are we getting to impeachment?
But, so whoa.
But no one else reported anything different.
This president committing a federal crime.
Let's say that one more time. Lie to Congress.
We are at a turning point here. Individual number one is in big trouble.
BuzzFeed's description of specific statements to the special counsel's office and characterization of documents and testimony obtained by this office regarding Mr. Cohen's congressional testimony are not accurate.
Don't fall for what these politicians out there want you to do. They want you to think we're all crooked. We're not.
The record of the press in reporting the Russia story is actually pretty spectacular.
They're not saying it's false. They're saying it's not the overall false.
It's not accurate. It's an old term of art for flax. It doesn't mean it's not true. It means that maybe in certain iotas, it wasn't quite true.
The story publishes, and then 22 hours later, we get this statement.
Yeah.
That's a strange, right? That's a weird fact pattern.
I think for the audience at home, I think this is even more frustrating than it was last night.
It's frustrating a bit that the statement from the special counsel did not specifically say what was inaccurate.
I think Robert Mueller's strategy of saying nothing about anything ever, even off the record, is very frustrating.
Mueller didn't do the media any favors tonight, and he did do the president one.
This is what liberals do. Something happens, there's some pushback, there's some nuance, and liberals go into this like backpedaling.
But I just think this is a bad day for us.
MichaelBerry.com.